So I just got back from Austin City Limits and it is currently 1:30 in the morning on Wednesday, the day I'm supposed to upload this video. I got in from my flight around 11 a.m., fell asleep by 11:30 a.m., woke up at 7 p.m., and now I'm currently drinking rosé and talking about conspiracy theories. I live a great life. Hello my loves, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new. Hi, hello, my name is Loey, and I wanted to jump on camera and chat with you guys a little bit about some more creepy cartoon conspiracy theories to absolutely ruin your childhood. The last video I did like this was a few months ago, maybe like 6 months ago, and recently I've noticed so many people have been watching it. A lot of what I've been talking about lately has been paranormal, and while that's still creepy and fun and I love telling scary stories, it's also really fun to get creeped out by things that are totally plausible and based in TV shows and movies and books and pop culture that you have probably experienced at some point during your lifetime, whether it's a kid's show or what's happening on the news right now. Which is why I love conspiracy theories, and today I'm going to be telling you a few more really creepy and messed up conspiracy theories that are going to rock your world about things that you probably experienced during your childhood. Before we get into this video, I wanted to quickly mention to you guys that my book, Haunted in Hollywood, is currently out for pre-order on the Barnes & Noble website. I will have a link for you down below. The price is back down, 40% off of retail price. That makes it $5 and some change in US prices. Go ahead and pre-order now because this price will not last forever. I appreciate all your screenshots and all of the kind words about my book coming out. It is really one of the most fun projects I've ever worked on, and I am really excited that you guys are excited about it too. One of the first ones that I wanted to talk about is a conspiracy theory that I've known about for a while, and I didn't know if I entirely believed it, but the more that I hear about it and the more that people around me talk about this conspiracy theory, the more I think it is totally plausible. This is about one of my favorite cartoons growing up because it was my parents' favorite cartoon that I ever watched, the Rugrats. There are actually a lot of theories about the Rugrats, but this one in particular is the theory that the Rugrats never really happened and all of the events that we see were actually just figments of Angelica's imagination. One of the main things that people think, and the reasons why people think that Angelica is sort of the key holder to this dream that someone is having, is that Angelica is really the first person for a long time until Susie is introduced into the group that can understand both the babies and the adults. When the babies talk and when the babies do things, the adults really don't get it, whereas Angelica kind of understands everything that's happening. So the storyline behind this theory goes that Chucky died in childbirth with his mother. This explains why his dad Chaz is such a nervous wreck, why he's always really just like freaked out and nervous and anxious all of the time. And it's because his kid and his wife both died. The second is that Tommy was a stillborn baby, hence why Stu was always in the basement making weird toys for the son that he never really got to watch grow up. The third piece of the puzzle are the twins, Phil and Lil. In this kind of universe where this theory is what we're going off of, Angelica knew that the DeVilles were pregnant and they got an abortion. Angelica didn't know if it was a boy or a girl, so she made up Phil and Lil in her mind. The theory progresses to say that in All Grown Up, so where all of the kids are grown up and they made another Nickelodeon show out of it, it's claimed that Angelica was abusing narcotics when she became a teenager. This supposedly triggered her schizophrenia, which is what people believe that she had if this theory is true, and all of the characters that she had made up in her mind so long ago came back and went to school with her. So when the show was canceled when Angelica was roughly 13, it's believed that it was canceled because she died of an overdose, and that's just how the series ended. There are a lot of plot holes in this, but also a lot of like really interesting tidbits. I think it's just the concept that a kids TV show could be so dark, especially something as sweet and innocent as the Rugrats really was. There was really no like hidden imagery or anything super weird in there. Not sure that I buy it, but it's still an interesting theory nonetheless. The next theory is based on the kids show Hey Arnold, and I've heard this one before. There's not a ton of evidence backing it up, but it's still kind of interesting nonetheless. That's the theory that Arnold's grandparents are actually his parents. And the real only supporting evidence behind this is we never really see his parents. He is raised by his grandparents, who are obviously a lot older. and it's that his head is misshapen like a football, but I just think there's no real evidence backing that up. It's more interesting to hear people's kind of backstories in their own heads as they're watching a show and how they fill in the blanks. This is a new theory to me and really interesting, and that's the theory that Scooby-Doo takes place in a kind of depression influenced world. If you think about it, all of the monsters and ghouls and things in Scooby-Doo are always played by museum owners and professors and people who are well respected in society, but who are just doing things seemingly for no reason at all. There's really no monetary gain most of the time. They're not killing people or changing society. They're just committing senseless crimes, really. And everything in Scooby-Doo is broken down and abandoned. Society doesn't really seem to be functioning. And I remember it just felt like a different universe when I used to watch that show. Especially, I don't know if you guys remember the Scooby-Doo movie where they meet the Coven of Witches. That movie tripped me out. It could be a bit of a stretch, but I do think it's interesting to think about it, because when I was a kid, that didn't even cross my mind. Scooby-Doo was just creepy and weird, and I'm going to talk a little bit later about Courage the Cowardly Dog, because that gave me the same sort of feeling when I would watch it, that we weren't in the same world. So it would make a lot of sense if in this universe there was some sort of kind of economic depression and celebrities and these powerful figures had just resorted to a life filled with crime. Another theory, as long as we're talking about Scooby-Doo, is that the entire series is just in Shaggy's drug-influenced brain. The theory goes that he was a super lonely boy, a total outcast, really didn't have any friends at school, and he was picked on by the popular kids of Velma, Daphne, and Fred. They would make fun of him by calling him Shaggy and just pretty much bully him 24/7. And this is interesting because if you look at kind of the comparison between Shaggy and his 3 human friends, they are very well put together and seem to come from wealthy-ish families. I think that the portrayal of Shaggy as like a stoner or a drug addict really isn't that far off. He always had the munchies. He was giving Scooby his Scooby snacks. But that's the next part of the theory, is that Shaggy believes that his dog, Scooby, who had died recently, was alive and could talk to him, and all of these friends were going on adventures together. So in his fantasies, he and his imaginary friends go on these crazy adventures and stop crime and save the world. The concept behind everyone being a masked figure and all of these demonic and monstrous presences not being what they seem is Shaggy trying to unmask the fictional world that he's living in. I think that that one is really interesting because I totally believe that obviously Shaggy was a stoner or a drug addict of some kind. The next theory is a little bit long, and I'm gonna leave the full theory that is currently on 4chan down below. I don't normally browse 4chan. It doesn't seem like a good part of the internet, but there is some interesting stuff on there occasionally, and this theory is one of the few golden nuggets that's come out of the site. The theory is that the cul-de-sac that Ed, and Eddie all live on is cursed, and that they are dead. Essentially, everyone that lived there before has died, and they are all cursed to stay there for all of eternity. There isn't a ton of evidence to back this up. In fact, the biggest piece of evidence that I've seen is that the kids' tongues are blue, and your tongue turns blue when you die. People also claim that this could be because there are never any adults around. I think what's most interesting about that theory isn't necessarily that it's super plausible or there's a ton of evidence to back it up. It's more so reading out the timeline that someone took so much time to put together and piece together every character from that show and explain how they died, their backstory, everything. It's definitely worth a read if you have a few minutes. The next one, I think we're on number 6, but I don't want to miscount, is that the Courage the Cowardly Dog show wasn't necessarily set in a crazy post-apocalyptic world at all, which is what I thought when I was growing up. Actually, Courage the Cowardly Dog hella scared me growing up. I think that mostly the husband freaked me out more than the monsters, but there were a few monsters that literally left me to points where I could not sleep at night. And maybe I should do like the creepiest things ever found in cartoon shows or the creepiest things ever done in kids shows, because Courage would have a few spots on there. This theory is actually kind of sweet, and it's that this show didn't take place in a fantastical monster-filled world at all. It was just a show that was filmed through a dog's eyes. Courage is just a really normal, although anxious dog, and he sees people that he warrants as threats, as villains, and makes up these crazy stories in his head, and always has to protect his owners. They live in the middle of nowhere, and all he really knows is the property he grew up on his entire life. And he's just a tiny little dog, and the world is big and scary. And so when he sees strangers, when weird things happen, he just gets scared, and his immediate response is to defend his owners. And I actually think it's a really sweet theory and makes a lot of sense. Okay, this is on one of my favorite TV shows of all time, which was the Powerpuff Girls. And if you were ever curious, my favorite Powerpuff Girl is Bubbles. I love her so much, although I think I relate most to Blossom. As an adult, I so understand Buttercup's attitude towards the world, so I just love them all. But the theory is that they never really existed, and they were just multiple personalities living inside of one host. If you think about it, the way that they were born was definitely weird. I mean, the professor mixed together sugar, spice, everything nice, as well as his magical concoction that suddenly gave him 3 daughters. We never see the host. We don't know who the host person, the real human being having these hallucinations and fantasies is, but in this theory, it's assumed that the Powerpuff Girls are there to fight off the arch nemesis Mojo Jojo, which is the host girl, the real little girl or older girl or boy or whoever it is. That's their brain just projecting like a villain to destroy and giving her something to focus on. It's one of my favorite shows, so I don't want to think that at all, but still an interesting theory, because when you really sit back and you think about it, the way that they were made is bizarre. The fact that there are all of these monsters and creatures that want to harm 3 innocent little girls is also bizarre. So, I don't know. There are a lot of theories and stories and various things based on SpongeBob, and I don't blame anybody. It's one of the longest running kids shows of all time. The characters are bizarre. The world is bizarre. The show is just so strange, and it seemed really normal to us when we were kids, but there's definitely some hidden things and secrets in that show that have to be looked into and maybe theorized just a little bit. Unfortunately, this theory was debunked by Tom Kenny, the creator of the show, in an interview, but it's still interesting to think about nonetheless. And it's a theory that all of the main characters in SpongeBob SquarePants are based on the 7 deadly sins. The first sin is pride, and this is attributed to Sandy because she's very proud of being from Texas. She's proud of all of her achievements. She's proud of being a smart squirrel who knows how to invent and do a lot of things. Greed is probably a no-brainer, and it's obviously Mr. Krabs, who is obsessed with money. Lust goes to Pearl, which before I read this theory, I was thinking, who could Lust go to? This is a kid's show, but Pearl makes a lot of sense. She's totally boy crazy. She doesn't really have much of a personality in the show aside from being boy crazy and wanting to be popular and cool. Envy goes to Plankton, who is filled with jealousy for Mr. Krabs and his success with the Krabby Patties and the restaurant in general, and Plankton will stop at nothing to pretty much take that success for himself. Gluttony goes to Mrs. Puff, who has been known to overindulge a bit in food, and I don't know, maybe this is just given to her because she's a puffer fish and she can get like massive. Wrath or rage goes to Squidward, who hates everyone and everything and is a strange character for a kids TV show, who has such a weird attitude towards life in general and seemingly no passion for anything. I mean, aside from the clarinet, but that's pretty much it. And then Sloth goes to Patrick, who is lazy, who does not have a job, who literally lays under a rock all day, every day. So there you guys go. Those are a few of my favorite kids TV show conspiracy theories of the moment. I'm always finding new ones of these. I love conspiracy theories. I'm a Reddit lurker. I love learning new things that people use to kind of fill in the holes in the stories of shows and everything that they take in. If you guys want more of this, don't forget to just let me know by giving the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you have not already. I know my last couple of videos have been creepy story related, so I'm really sorry. It was just because I was so busy, and that was kind of just what I already had prepared. I promise I'll make it more diverse from here on out. I just love some creepy stories, man, and I know you guys like to be spooked too. I love you all so much. Thank you for watching this video, and thank you for taking some time to hang out with me. I'll see you guys soon in my next video. Until then, have an amazing day, and I'll catch you next time.